Welcome back to another episode of the Girls Talk Money podcast, and Happy New Year's. This is now the 9th episode of Girls Talk Money, and we could not be more excited about today's episode. We are talking through all things 2024 goals. We'll be reflecting on 2023, talking about our goals for the new year, and giving helpful tips and tricks for setting goals that actually stick. This is such a perfect time of year to get really excited about your goals, whether they are money goals or life goals. And if you are getting ready to set some money goals in 2024, but you're feeling overwhelmed, we're super excited. Our financial foundations guide is officially released as of today. So if you want to get your financial shit together in 2024, this guide will help you walk through everything you need for a strong financial foundation. And we will be linking that guide in the show notes.
Yay! We have been working on this guide for so long and putting so much work into it, and I'm so excited to see it live. So yes, you will find it in the show notes, and if you have any questions about it, you can always shoot us a DM on Instagram. But before we dive in, let's do our little weekly recap. What's going on in your life, Erin?
Yeah, so we're filming this mid-December. It is December 13th today, and December has been a big planning month for me. I don't want to talk too much about this because I know this episode is all about kind of like goal setting and planning for your goals and all of that. But I feel like in years past, I would like wake up on January 1st and try to set all of my goals and like be super overwhelmed and everything. And this year I have really been taking December to like plan things, organize things. I'm moving in 2 days, so I'm really using moving as like an organizational reset and just kind of thinking through what I want my goals to be like so that I can actually action plan for them, and hopefully I will be able to stick with them. That's all for my weekly recap, just because I am moving and that's really been taking up literally all of my brain power. I know going into next week, we are going into the holidays. I don't think that I'm planning on taking much time off of work. I am throwing an event in the Pittsburgh area next Wednesday, which doing that the week of Christmas, I just like love to stress myself out. I should not have done that. But I am really excited about the event. Over 100 women in Pittsburgh RSVP'd for the event. So just getting really excited about that. And those two things between moving and the event are really taking up, like, again, like I said, all of my brain power. So that's what I'm prepping for. What is going on in your week, Grace?
I have been spending so much time just reflecting on the year, but also December is always a busy month for me with my marketing business. And I know I said this in a previous episode, but I feel like my brain is just going in so many different directions. I haven't been able to just sit down and really focus on what do I want in 2024. So I've been doing a program with my friend. I took a manifestation and spirituality course this year for 20 weeks, and now we're doing another program offered by that same person, and it's a 5-day program to kind of help you get aligned with your goals for 2024, and it's been really helpful to help me just like schedule into my calendar. I'm going to sit down for an hour tonight and work through this, but I'm so looking forward to having the week between Christmas and New Year's off. I'm going to LA this weekend, and I'm really excited to just kind of, step away. Like, I love my work, but I need a bit of a break. I feel like there's a lot of mental load that comes with running your own business. So it doesn't really leave you when you leave your desk. You'll be just doing something else and you're thinking about work. So I'm very excited to have that time off to just think more about 2024, just more in depth. Although obviously today we're going to be talking about our goals for 2024 and how to make them stick. And I have thought about some things, but I don't feel that like new year motivation yet. I'm still kind of dragging my ass through 2023 at this point, but I'm excited. I'm excited to have time off and to reset. And I've also been continuing my search for the perfect apartment, and I still have not found it, but we're getting there. And I think I'm going to end up scheduling some tours for the week that I'm off and go check them out and hopefully find a place and be moved in January or February. That would be the goal. So lots going on over here, but
I do think that I'm already feeling like the new year motivation, and that I think that's just a part of me really dedicating like the entire month of December to focusing on my goals. Not like I'm like working every single day on my goals or anything, but I have just been thinking about it for the last 13 or so days, so that I'm going into January feeling good. So I am feeling that motivation. I will say for the past 2 weeks, I have not been feeling motivated like in my current tasks and my current work, just because I am moving on Friday and my apartment is a literal disaster. It is so hectic and crazy in here. So I think that once I get myself situated, I will really be feeling good for 2024. Before we get into the episode, we want to take a minute to tell you about today's show sponsor, Foyer. If one of your 2024 goals is to start saving for your first home, you're going to want to check out Foyer. Foyer is a first-time homebuyer savings account that offers a 2% deposit match on your savings and an APY of over 4.5% at the time of recording. Foyer is built to help you through your entire first-time home buying journey between their planning features, answering the question of how much you actually need to save, educating you through their Learn tab, which definitely taught us a lot about all of the overwhelming information that comes along with homeownership. They help you save in the fastest way possible with their interest rate and their contribution match, and then when it's time to buy, they help you find tax benefits in your state and match you with the right people like agents and lenders. Head to the link in our show notes or to foyersavings.com/girlstalkmoney because we have an exclusive Foyer offer just for our audience. You'll get a $250 bonus toward your down payment with your first $100 deposit, which is so exciting. That can really help you kickstart your home ownership journey, so make sure to check out Foyer. Terms and conditions apply. See show notes for details. But before we get into our 2024 goals and talking through what our personal goals are and how we're setting goals to make sure that the goals are actually going to stick after the hype of the New Year's resolutions, we kind of want to just spend a little bit of time reflecting on 2023. And I think this is a really good practice for anyone to do. If you did set goals at the beginning of 2023 and maybe you didn't revisit them throughout the year, but just going back to that journal entry or that note in your phone or wherever you listed your goals at, taking a look at them, because sometimes you can like even forget. I know for me, I forgot that I even set some of these goals and I accomplished them. Or maybe if you didn't accomplish them, you can see, oh my gosh, my life has shifted so much and this goal doesn't even align with who I am anymore. So just spending a little bit of time reflecting on your goals was very eye-opening for me. But how did you feel about it, Grace?
I feel like at the beginning of this year, I set certain goals, and I don't quite remember what all of them were, but I know that a lot of them were more so focused on the financial side of my life. And then the universe had a funny way of telling me that that was really not what I should be focusing on, because a couple months into this year, I started struggling so intensely with feelings of comparison and feeling like I was just behind and not enough. And it was horrible. And it almost led me to not start this podcast with you, which I know we've talked about, which is crazy. And maybe I'll tell the story someday. But I was struggling so bad with just feeling, yeah, just like I was not enough and I was behind. And I ended up going back to therapy to work on that. And I have healed that now. I've spent so much time this year working on that. But I think I went into the year with this idea of like, okay, I'm going to do all these financial things. And then as the year went on, I was like, there are so many things that are just like so much more important that are coming up for me that I want to spend my energy working on. And I did focus heavily on debt pay down. I got rid of all of my private student loans this year. I don't even know how much was put towards them, but it was a substantial amount, like probably $30,000 this year, which is crazy. I was putting every single extra dollar I had onto my debt. And then I realized, okay, I'm ready to move out. And I want to go. So I'm not going to put every single extra dollar onto my debt. I'm going to start to put some of that aside to move out so that I'm prepared when I want to make that decision, make that move. But I think throughout the whole thing, like I thought that finance was going to be such a big thing for me in 2023, but I realized that there was a lot more like internal healing I needed to do. But I do think that working on that in turn helped me reach some of those goals that I set at the beginning of the year, because I mean, we started this podcast, and if I was not in the right mindset, I would not have been able to get there. And I was able to continue growing my business to a point where I now have a virtual assistant that works with me on a consistent basis. And she's my first like ongoing consistent contractor that I've had. I've had one-off contractors for small projects, but I feel like that has been a big thing that I wanted to get to that point in my business, but I think there was some like internal healing I had to do first. And I didn't know I was going to need to do that when the year started. And then I started falling apart and was like, hold on a second, I need to figure this out. But yeah, I feel like it just goes to show that sometimes you set goals for yourself that you think are really important, and then you come to realize something else is a lot more important. But what were your goals in 2023? Like, how did that go for you?
Yeah, I think that I am whatever you thought in 2023, that's what I'm like realizing moving forward for 2024. So when I was looking back at the goals that I set myself for 2023, like you said, they were all very like hard and fast, make 100K in my business or grow to 300K on TikTok. They were very definitive goals with like external measures of success almost. And going into 2024, I'm looking at the goals that I'm setting, and they're all very intrinsic motivators, if that makes sense. Like, I really want to spend 2024 working on myself and doing the internal work and making myself the happiest, healthiest, most confident version of myself. And like you just said, through that, I think that I will be able to hit some of these external measures of success goals that I am in the back of my mind wanting to hit, whether they're income levels that I want to hit in my business or followers on social media or anything along those lines. But I'm noticing that this year I want to do a better job of setting goals that are for me, like for making me the best version of myself and making me a lot happier, because in turn I will be able to grow in my career and grow my income and all of those external things. You also mentioned about kind of like the shifts in your finances. I also had a major shift in mine at the beginning of the year. 2023 was going to be all about investing. I was like, I'm going to grow my investment portfolio to six figures and I'm going to invest every dollar as much as possible. And at the time, I was like, yeah, I have debt, but it's not a big goal of me or a goal of mine to pay off my debt because it's relatively low interest. But about halfway through the year, or not even halfway through the year, probably by like the beginning of Q2, I really switched gears and was like, I want to pay off my student loans and I want to be totally debt free by the end of the year, even paying off my car loan that has like a 3.5% interest rate. Um, and a big reason for that was because I made the decision in May to quit my corporate job. And at the beginning of 2023, I didn't even have that on my radar. I did not think that I was going to be the girl that quits her corporate job to, I don't even want to say pursue social media full time, because I didn't. I still do a lot of like the freelance work and the like content creation for brands and all of those other things. But I didn't think that I was going to want to step away from my corporate job. And then I did. And all of a sudden, I saw being debt free as giving me a lot more options in my whether I want to quit my job or whether I want to pursue X, Y, and Z. It gives me a lot more options and a lot more freedom. So that's why I sort of made that pivot and decided that I wanted to pay down debt instead of invest every dollar that I was making.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure, especially when it comes to financial goals, which we'll end up kind of talking about later in this episode. But I feel like there's a lot of pressure to focus on a certain financial goal. And then sometimes you realize, okay, wait, does this actually get me to where I want? Like, I thought about that too. I was like, I want to invest every dollar, put every single dollar towards debt. And then I was like, well, I actually want to like live my life at the same time. So I'm going to find a more balanced approach, or I'm going to pivot and focus on something else. And I think that's, I don't know, it's definitely a good lesson in being okay with pivoting, because sometimes what you decide at the beginning of the year isn't what you want later on. And there's
Yeah,
no sense in forcing yourself all the way through it if it no longer makes sense for you.
definitely.
So,
Should we pivot into some of our 2024 goals, what we're looking for
yes,
in the new year? I'm super excited to talk through some of these with you. Do you want to go first?
sure. I think that 2023 was good. And like I said, I spent a lot of time healing in 2024 and growing my business, but Q4 it's been a lot. I will say the past few months have been really intense for me on a personal life level, and I think that I really want 2024 to just kind of be like my healing year and focused more on like investing in me, my health, my habits, my own happiness. I had a conversation with my therapist the other day, actually yesterday, where I was telling her I feel like and I think this is common in entrepreneurship and just in a lot of like ambitious women, but we tend to like consistently move the goalpost further and further. And we're like, okay, I want to hit this mark. I remember when I was just starting my social media page, I wanted to get to 10,000 followers. And then I did. And I was like, wait, this doesn't feel any different than it did before. Okay, maybe like, what if we get to 50K? And then I got to 50K and I was like, 50K feels no different than 10K felt. And I think that that has happened a lot in terms of my work that I do. I'm always moving the goalpost forward and not enjoying where I'm at enough. And my therapist was like, okay, so in 2024, we're going to work on self-compassion, because she's like, you're not being very fair to yourself, and you would not move the goalpost like that on a friend. Like, you wouldn't hear your friend say, oh, I made six figures, and be like, why didn't you make 200K? She's like, you would never say that to your friend. And if I did, I would be a shit ass friend. So she was like, girl, she's like, girl, you need to be like fair to yourself. And so I want to work on self-compassion in 2024. I will talk more about this when we talk about setting goals and finding ways to make them stick, but I've done a lot of meditations and visualizations of what I want in 2024. And something that has been top of mind for me is having my own apartment. I just so badly want to be in my own space. But what's interesting is every time I do a meditation or visualization and I imagine myself in my own apartment, I imagine myself with a dog. And that's crazy because I have wanted a dog my entire life. Unfortunately, my mom hates dogs, my dad hates cats, and my brother's allergic to both. So we never had either. And it was just little old me wishing for a pet. So I think I would really love to make that jump and adopt a dog when I move out. And that's really exciting to me to have a dog. On the financial side of things though, I really want to like minimum double my income. Um, we'll see. I'm trying to shoot for the stars. We'll talk about the ladder of believability later and my thoughts on that. But I also would love to wipe out the remaining $20,000 of student loan debt that I have. I also am going to start saving for a car because I have a Toyota Camry and she has like a little engine that could. She will keep on chugging, but I know that in the next year or two, she's probably going to shit the bed, and I want to be prepared to put a down payment on a car. And I also am starting to save for a down payment on a home because I know I probably want to buy a property in the next 3 to 5 years. And that's something that's going to take more saving. And just, I don't know. I also just want to work on making content creation more fun. I think I've put a lot of pressure and a lot of needy energy onto it, which I'll talk about later too. But I want it to be fun. Like I have a company that I own. That's my full-time job. Content creation should be fun. It shouldn't feel like this frustrating process. And I think it has for me for a while because I have felt kind of lost in my content. But one thing I keep coming back to is if anything were possible, what would I create? And that has kind of helped guide me in setting my 2024 goals and not playing small with them. But what are your 2024 goals? I know you mentioned a couple of them a little bit, but I want to hear the whole tea.
Definitely. My overarching 2024 goal is to enter my It Girl era. That's what I'm calling it. I literally have an entire Notion board all around my 2024 goals. I'm like super excited about this Notion document because I think it's going to really help me like organize all of my stuff and like check in with my goals and make sure I'm like sticking to them and everything. And my overarching goal is called Enter My It Girl Era. And I literally wrote in my Notion card, if this is the only goal that I focus on in 2024, all of my other goals, I will achieve them. And I think that's just because what I mean when I say enter my it girl era, um, I just mean genuinely becoming the happiest, healthiest, and most confident version of myself. Those are things between like organization, so keeping my apartment clean, keeping my car clean, keeping my phone clean or phone like organized, all of those things, showing up for myself every day between getting ready every day, showing up for myself in my workouts and how I'm eating, my morning routine, and journaling has been like a big thing in December as I'm like kind of thinking through my 2024 goals and like what I want out of life and all of those things. Journaling has been a big piece of that. And that's something that I really want to stick to in 2024 as well. The next piece is disengaging from things that don't serve me. I think that's going to be like a big relief of like stress and anxiety is just like really focusing on the things that are serving me at this stage of my life and disengaging from the things that don't. And then the last piece of this is being the most interesting version of myself is how I wrote it in my little journal. And how I like to think about this is I always set the goal at the beginning of 2020, or I always set the goal at the beginning of the new year that I want to read more or I want to, like listen to more audiobooks or do whatever, but I never understand why. And it stems from being a more interesting version of myself and not to anyone else, but to myself. When I'm reading, when I'm listening to podcasts, when I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm continuously learning and I'm becoming a more interesting version of myself. So that's like the last piece of that. But it's all just about like showing up as the most confident version of me. And again, I think in turn, if I focus on those things and I do all of the internal work this year, and that's my main focus for 2024, I think all of my other goals, my money goals, my career goals, all of those things will come true. But it all has to start from being the most confident version of me.
I love that. My one of my mantras for the year. So for listeners, Erin and I have the same business coach. I met with the business coach earlier this year, and then I was like, Erin, you got to meet with her. And now Erin has her too, and we adore her. Ketsia, if you are listening, we love you.
She's
And
coming on our
when
podcast. Side
she
note.
is, she is coming on the podcast in a few weeks. I'm so excited to have her on. But when I started meeting with her, I told her that my like mantra for the year was to be healthy, happy, hot, and rich. And that was literally, it used to be my bio on social media. I should probably change it back, but that was it. And it was all about showing up as like
Mhm.
the healthiest, happiest, hottest, richest
Yes.
version
And
of yourself.
I think that like making the overarching goal, like entering my it girl era, that is the goal. All of the things below that, the keeping my apartment clean, the going to the gym every day, those are all action steps that are going to help me accomplish that goal. Whereas I think a lot of people set the action steps as the goal. They set the goal of drinking more water. They set the goal of going to the gym more. And it's like, that's not going to be super motivating for you to
Mhm.
stick to because you don't understand the true root cause of why you're setting that goal or what you want to get out of it or how you're going to feel when you ultimately accomplish that goal. So, yes, it sounds like a lot to all of a sudden be a super organized person and have a morning routine that includes journaling when you've never really journaled in your life before this month, and doing all of the things. But it's like I'm coming back to and I'm constantly reminding myself that all of these things are going to make me the happiest, healthiest, most confident version of myself. And that's what's going to like motivate me to stick to the goal.
Yes, absolutely. So then when it comes to like sticking to these goals, right? These are our goals, and maybe like these inspire you to think through some of your goals, or maybe you're also in the mindset of setting them. Maybe you already have your goals picked out. But when it comes to like setting them, tell me more about like how you set your goals and like that. I know we have like some similar approaches and some different approaches, but like what are your thoughts on like setting those goals?
Definitely. I think one big thing that I've been learning a lot about recently, and I know you're a big like spiritual girl, manifestation, all of that. I am inherently not, but I'm trying to learn about it. And I've been like deep
I
diving into
got
it in the
you.
past couple of months. Like it's just really interesting to me. And I think it's all about like your mindset around things. Like it's not anything jaw dropping. Like there's nothing, they're not reinventing the wheel here on anything, but it's all about your mindset when it comes to your goals. And one big thing that I've learned in the past couple of months is setting goals out of abundance and confidence as opposed to scarcity. So let's say your goal, your big financial goal for this year is to pay off credit card debt. Instead of setting the goal of, I want to pay off credit card debt, you're setting the goal of, I want to feel empowered and I want to feel confident around my money. Because that goal is you saying that you want to teach yourself how to set up the systems, how to budget and track your spending, how to do all of the things that are going to make you confident and empowered when it comes to your money. And through that process, you are going to pay off the credit card debt. But instead of setting the goal of, well, I really want to pay off credit card debt because the interest is like creeping up and I like am not going to be able to pay my bills, and like all of that, you're setting the goal of empowerment and confidence in your money. And through that, you will pay off the credit card debt. So it's just like
For
kind of
sure.
all about framing and like positioning the goals to what is going to motivate you and make you stick to your goals in the long run, even like when you've already accomplished it. Because, okay, let's say you do set the goal of paying off your credit card debt and you do that in a couple of months. Okay, what now? You're probably going to get yourself back into credit card debt because the goal was just to pay off credit card debt. That's all you wanted. You got it. And now you're probably going to go back into it.
I like you said, I'm a spiritual girly. I am, and I love manifestation, and I took a 20-week long course that I mentioned earlier on spirituality and manifestation this year. And when I tell you the majority of the course is literally on neuroscience, that's what it's on. And manifestation is pretty much just like goal setting, but like using the way that your brain works to do that. And it is the most fascinating thing. Like it's when no matter where you fall, like religiously, like you have a brain, and our brains as human beings work very similarly. And there are so many things that I think help in terms of positioning and framing your goal in a way that will actually get you to it. And these are a couple things I wanted to mention that I think are really fascinating. So our subconscious brain is where all of our beliefs are stored. So if you want to make more money, but you have a subconscious belief that you're not worthy of making more money, you're going to find yourself kind of doing things like, you know, slacking at work or making more mistakes at work or things like that. So when you set goals, keep in mind that your subconscious brain doesn't understand negatives. So if you say things like, I don't want to be in debt or I don't want to be broke, your brain is just thinking about debt and being broke. And I love the teacher that I've learned from. She used this example of, if I say to you, don't think of a blue mermaid, all you're thinking of is a blue mermaid. You know what I mean? Or when you tell a kid, like, don't touch that. And then the kid is like, all they hear is touch that. They're going to go touch whatever you just told them not to touch. And it's because our subconscious brain doesn't understand that. So when we say those things like, I don't want to be in debt, all we're thinking about is the feeling of being in debt. And then that's telling our subconscious brain to focus on being in debt rather
I
than the alternative, which is fascinating to me.
Yes, I even heard in a podcast I was listening to a couple of weeks ago, I heard the idea of, okay, so you have your emergency fund, and we all agree like having an emergency fund is a really good piece of your financial system, right? However, you are not manifesting an emergency. You are manifesting peace of mind and security by having that emergency fund there, because if an emergency did arise, you would have the money to cover it. So that gives you peace of mind and security. So I saw someone renamed their emergency fund Peace of Mind Fund or something positive, just kind of like shifting the idea away from like these negative emotions into something a little bit more positive. But I also loved what you said about like the like negatives kind of making you feel the being in debt or anything like that, because I read somewhere that they contributed it to your self-worth is your net worth. And we always hear like, oh, your network is your net worth and everything like that, but your self-worth is your net worth. And believing that whatever you believe you're capable of, that's what you'll receive, not what you want, if that makes
Mhm.
sense. So just kind of like getting into the energy of like, this is what I believe that I'm capable of because these are my goals, not like, oh, I really want like a 10K month. It's like, no, I am capable of a 10K month. I don't want a 10K month. I am capable of it.
Mhm. Well, what's interesting about this is because it's all connected the way that our brains work. And so I'm skipping ahead a little bit on our notes here, but I think it's all connected, right? So we have like the subconscious part of our brain, and then we have the conscious part of our brain. And we, like I said, our subconscious brain is where all the beliefs about ourselves and what we're capable of are stored. And so we can consciously say, like, I want to be debt free. But if we have this subconscious belief that we are not worthy of being debt free, or that we're terrible at managing money, we always make mistakes, we're going to be in debt forever, your subconscious beliefs override your conscious desires. And so if you don't get rid of what that belief is, it's so hard to manifest what you really want consciously. So you can say over and over again, like, I want to be debt free, I want to be debt free. But if you don't address that belief, then it's going to be really hard to get to that. And so I think that's why I love the aspect of like making sure that you keep your goals in a positive form, and you're not saying, I don't want to be in debt, I don't want to whatever. Because when you say that and you use those negatives, you're playing into what those negative beliefs are, right? If I'm like, I want to, I want to, wipe out my debt because I want to feel free when it comes to my finances, or I want to build a peace of mind fund because I want to relieve that worry of, you know, not having enough or something. You have to affirm to yourself throughout your progress to achieving that goal that you're worthy of having that goal, that you're capable of having that goal. And so it makes it like a longer process.
Yeah.
Um, Go ahead.
The biggest thing that I took away from like all of the learnings that I've been doing over the past couple of months is in order to manifest a goal, like goal setting is nothing more than saying like, oh, I want something, right? But in order to manifest that goal, you are acting as if you've already achieved that goal. And I think that's a huge part in sort of like deciding that you're worthy or that you are able to achieve your goal is acting as if and giving off the energy as if you've already achieved that goal. So,
Mhm.
for example, let's say your goal is to lose 10 pounds by April. What would the April version of yourself be doing? And do that today. Act as if you've already lost those 10 pounds. You would wear the clothes you want to wear. You would go to the gym every day. You would eat healthy because you're fueling your body with the nutrients that you need in order to show up for your workouts every day. You would drink enough water. Your sleep would be better. What can you do today to act as if you've already lost that 10 pounds? Or to apply this to money, if you are debt free, let's say your goal was to pay off that $10,000 in credit card debt. If you are credit card debt free, what are you doing? You're probably checking in with your money regularly. You're probably understanding where every dollar of your money is going. You're doing all of those things that will help you reach the goal, but you're acting as if you've already accomplished it. And I think that's a really good kind of like mindset hack to get you to stick with your goals if you've like set them, but you might be like falling off of them.
I think also it helps keep you in. Well, okay, let me rewind a bit. So, this entire year, one thing that I have asked myself, and I used to keep it on a sticky note that I used to keep like on my desk or in my room, and it would say, what would the best version of me do? So, sometimes I'd be sitting there and like my bedroom's looking like a disaster. And I'm like, oh, and then I would see the sticky note that's like, what would the best version of you do? And I'm like, she would get her ass up and she would take the 5 minutes to clean her room so she doesn't live in a freaking pigsty. That's what she would do, you know? And you would be surprised though how much better you feel when you get to the other side. Like, I'd clean out my room and I'd be like, my room is so cute. Like, I love it here. Like, or even just, some days because I work at home and live in Massachusetts, it's freezing here in the winter. And sometimes I'm like, what would the best version of me do? She would get up and she would just go try to get some fresh air for at least 10 minutes outside just to get fresh air, just to get some sunlight on her. And so I'll sit there in my little coat, like being all cold, and I'll go for a walk. And it's not necessarily the most fun thing, but then I come back in the house and I feel so much better. And has been a really helpful reminder for me of like, what would the best version of you do? And that also helps keep you in that energy of like feeling the motivation around your goals, because it's okay if the version that you are right now is not the best version of you. Like, this is not the best version of me. You know what I mean? We're always working on ourselves, but asking yourself, like, what would the best version of me do is such a good way to come back to your goals and find the motivation again. And I will ask, like I said, I will ask myself all the time, like when I'm trying to like, make a well balanced meal, or when it comes to movement and exercise, or even just the way that I handle certain relationships and friendships. I'm like, what would the best version of me do? She would just be like upfront and express how she's feeling, or she would leave this relationship that's really toxic, or, those types of things. And it's so helpful to help you. I feel like it embodies like that it girl era kind of energy.
Yes. I love that. The organization piece is so big for me. This is at the top of my it girl era checklist for 2024. But it goes back to the like acting as if. So I know one thing that you said at the beginning of the episode when you were talking through your 2024 goals is that you want to save for a down payment. And this is actually on my 2024 goals list as well. On the money goal side is saving for a down payment on a home. I just said I'm moving in 2 days. I'm moving into just an apartment. I'm still renting, and my lease is 15 months long. And when I signed that lease, I was like, okay, at the end of that 15 months, it's probably going to be time for me to buy. I'll be 26 at that point, in the latter half of my 20s. And I just think I'm in a good place to really start saving for that down payment. And I know you are too. And side note, we're really excited because Foyer is the sponsor of today's episode. And that is where both of us will be doing our down payment savings this year in the Foyer First Time Homebuyers savings account, which we are so excited about.
Yes. When Erin reached out and told me that Foyer had reached out, we were looking at the website and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, I was so hyped, and we've been so, so excited to work with them. I am also working on saving for a down payment on a home for the exact same reasons. I feel like I'll just get to a point where I'm ready to buy. And I want to save in the most strategic way. And the fact that they have a deposit match is just, I don't know, I've
Yeah, that's
never
really
heard of
exciting.
anyone yeah, I don't know, I've never heard of anyone doing that before. But I think for me also, I love the idea of being able to have it at a separate savings account, like at a separate place, rather than not at the same institution I have the rest of my sinking funds and stuff, because I know when I'm saving for a long-term goal and I start to see the money like stack up, but I know I'm not touching it for a long time. I'm like, I'm like, how important is that long-term goal, you know? So having it like out of sight, out of mind is really nice. And I also think it's really smart if you are saving with someone else. Like say you're saving with a partner, you can have it at a separate institution and you can each just send your money over there rather than like it's in one person's account and not the others, or you know what I mean? It just
Mhm.
makes it a lot easier.
On the app, they also help you set your savings goal. So
Mm.
they kind of like walk you through the estimate of like, okay, what do you think your purchase price is going to be? And how much do you want to put down between the percentage or the dollar amount? And then they kind of help you figure out what your savings goal needs to be for that down payment, which I think is really awesome. So they really do take you through your entire savings journey, like we said at the beginning of the episode. But why I bring this up is because in manifestation, the whole like acting as if concept, organization is a big piece of this for me, because if I'm saving for my dream home, I need to act as if I already have my dream home. If I have my dream home, I'm not leaving dishes in the sink. I'm not leaving clothes on the
Mhm.
floor. I'm not leaving
Yeah.
my bedroom mess. I'm making my bed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you are acting as if that goal already came true, and the universe will present you with that abundance and with those opportunities to hit your goal, if so.
Yes, 100%. One thing that I know always comes up whenever I feel like people are talking about goal setting, and especially in manifestation, because I know we've both kind of said it, like shoot for the moon, kind of like set goals that are, maybe like reach goals, or, don't like play small with your goals. But then a lot of people are like, okay, well, if I made $50,000 this year, then can I set a goal to make 500K next year? Because that doesn't seem reasonable. Like the odds of going from 50K to 500K are probably slim. And that's where there's this technique called using the ladder of believability, which I think is so important. And that's why I really love framing your goals around like the energy that you bring, because you can change your energy at any point, but you can't necessarily go from like 50K to 500K tomorrow. You know what I mean? But the ladder of believability is basically just like thinking of your goals as if it was like on a ladder and you're moving up like rung to rung, because your brain's going to have a really hard time getting behind a goal if it is super far off. Because again, remember, your subconscious mind needs to believe that you're worthy and that it's possible and whatever. So if I'm like, okay, today I make 100K and next year I want to make $1 million, my brain's like, ma'am, hold on now, like whoa, okay. And so my brain's going to have a hard time believing that's actually possible. But if I say, okay, so right now these are just examples, these are fake numbers, but say I make 100K. Next year, I want to make 200K. That's a bit more believable. And then, maybe my next goal up the rung is to make 300 or 400K or whatever, you know what I mean? And I'm going up. And keep in mind that it doesn't have to be like year by year. You can kind of say, okay, I want to go from here to here in the next few months. I want to go from there to there in the next few months, but you can use it with anything. So I know one thing that has been, I want to like move my body more, because I just sit at a desk all day and movement makes me feel really good, but I don't love going to the gym 5 days a week. I really like yoga, but it's 30 minutes away. And so I just feel like I'm like a little limited. So what I've started doing is trying to go to yoga a few times a month. It's also more expensive. And so I'll go to hot yoga a few times a month. And that's like my, okay, we're going to go from not doing any movement. I used to be a really big gym girly. Like I was a big weightlifter, but I just realized it's not, I don't want to do it 5 days a week. It's not for me. And so yeah, I'm going from, okay, the first rung on my ladder is to like start moving and going to like a class a few times a month. And then once we get there, then I want to move up the rung to something different. And so how long it takes to go from rung to rung is like not your decision to make, or it's not, you don't have to focus on that. Just focus on going up the rung. But I think a lot of people try to go from like the bottom of the ladder to the top in one go. And like, truly imagine yourself trying to do that in real life. That would be an absolute disaster. You know what I mean? If you tried to just jump up a ladder, like take it one step at a time. and know that like it doesn't mean that you're not going to get to whatever that top goal is, but break it down into smaller goals because it's going to help your brain get behind it because it's going to feel more believable rather than trying to go from like 0 to 100 in one week, you know?
I love that because the end goal is still on the ladder. So when you're thinking
Yes.
through the idea of like acting as if you've already achieved that goal, you can act as if you've already achieved the goal that is 10 rungs up the ladder. Like, let's say your goal
Mhm.
is to make $1 million and right now you make 60K. Like, you can't go from making 60K to $1 million right off the bat. That might be like literally a 10-year plan. But you can act as if, obviously don't spend the money as if you make $1 million, but
Yeah.
you can, what would the $1 million businesswoman version of yourself be? Or like, how would they act?
Mhm.
So you can still like kind of look upwards up the ladder while like breaking it down into more kind of like actionable steps. What would you say you do in order to like check in on your goals, revisit them? Because this is something that I have not done in 2023. Like I said, some of the goals that I set, I didn't even remember that I set them until December and I was planning for this episode. But I am planning in 2024 to like take a more methodical, like kind of analytical approach to checking in with my goals, making sure I'm updating them frequently, and just like having those regular check ins with myself.
Yeah, I think so. In manifestation, there's this thing called human design, and I won't get into it in depth, but if you are interested in spirituality, you can look up your human design chart. And one of the things that it says is whether you are a specific or non specific manifester. So I am a non specific manifester, which means that for me, setting specific timelines on my goals or specific numbers or deadlines or anything like that is very stressful. But other people are like, I want to make $10,000 by June 1st, 2024. And like, that works really well for them. And like the details really get them excited. They do not get me excited. So when it comes to checking in on my goals, I've actually taken the approach of not really checking in on them in terms of like, okay, this is my goal by the end of the year. Where am I at the end of Q1? Because I, and the type of manifestor that I am, I have to trust that it might come at the 11th hour. You know, if I have a goal to grow to 200,000 followers on TikTok, I might get a huge influx of people on December 31st. You know what I mean? And that's just like, that's just the way the universe wanted to deliver it to me. And I have to be okay with that. So I try not to check in too much. But when it comes to embodying the energy, I have spiritual friends that I feel like really like you and some of my other friends that really they just have good perspectives on how to stay in that energy, and having a good group of people around you is so important for achieving your goals because if I'm feeling off or if I'm struggling with one of my goals or I feel like maybe I'm slacking or I'm having a hard time embodying that it girl energy around my goals, I know I can reach out to any of my friends that are also spiritual in the same way I am, and they know how to support me, they know what to say, and that's a good check-in for me and will usually kind of get me back on track. But one thing also I always think about with manifestation is when you set goals, even just if you're not spiritual and you're just setting goals and you don't manifest whatever, um know that the goals you set, it should be this or better. So if I set a goal to make a 15K month, if I hit a 20K month, great. It's this or better. So I don't feel the pressure to like, how am I progressing to that specific goal? Because it honestly just stresses me out. And I just keep in mind that if I haven't reached that goal yet, it's just because it's still on its way or something better is coming my way too.
Definitely. I think that I'm also that way. I don't, if I have like a very numeric goal, I feel like I don't check in on them on a regular cadence to see how I'm
Hmm.
progressing necessarily towards that goal. I also kind of trust that it's going to happen the way that it's supposed to happen. But I think one thing that I'm kind of implementing into my 2024 is keeping up with because my goals are so intrinsic, and this is why I think it's important to set the goals that are very intrinsic. So like I said, the example that I use with the credit card debt, if your goal is to pay off credit card debt this year, the goal that you're setting is to feel empowered and confident with your money. Have more like routine check-ins with those feelings. So for me, like maybe my morning routine includes a quick little like journal And in my journal, I'm talking about how I'm feeling that day. So if I am trying to feel confident and empowered with my money specifically, how am I feeling towards my money that day? Do I feel really anxious because I don't know how much I spent because I didn't track my spending and I didn't keep up with that habit? Like, track all of those almost feelings and journal them and just think through them in your everyday, and like think about what you can do in your everyday to like work towards those goals, rather than just letting a quarter go by and be like, time to do my quarterly check-in. Oops, I didn't drink enough
Yeah.
water this quarter because that was my goal. Or I didn't go to the gym
Yeah.
5 days a week when I don't work out at all. Like, oh no. Instead, just kind of think through those feelings and incorporate them more into your everyday.
Yes, I will say one goal that I had at the beginning of this year was to journal more. And for a very long time of this year, I was journaling every single day. And I think I was traveling and then that got me off my routine. And I'm a very routine oriented person. And I've realized that when I step away from the routine, it can be really hard to get myself back on board. So I know that now going forward, like I'm going on a trip this weekend, I'm going to bring my book with me because I read every day before bed. And I know that if I don't read before bed when I'm away, I'm probably going to have a hard time getting back into it when I get home. But I think journaling for sure has really helped me kind of check in with those emotions. But I also go to therapy every week. And I feel like that is also a good check in
Mhm.
for me because my therapist is like my bestie. I love her. And I feel like I just get to show up and have a girl chat with her and tell her about what's going on with my life. So she knows what my goals are and she will check in with them. I mentioned in one of my TikToks like a month ago that she told me I needed to set a budget for myself every month for self-care because I'm not good at doing the things. I'm not going to say I'm not good. I'm learning to be better at doing some of the like upkeep of like I'll want to go to yoga and then I'll be like, oh, like a class is $15, like that's like $60 a month, that's a lot to spend on like just 4 yoga classes. But so she was like, you need to set a budget for yourself, and so we'll check in. She'll be like, how's that going, what have you done for yourself? And I'm like, I spent $15 on myself this month and that's it. And she's like, nope. Like, so having that check in is really helpful too. So even if you don't necessarily have the discipline to like check in with yourself, like find someone to check in with if you can, whether that's like a therapist that you pay to sit down and check in with you or a friend or something like that. But yeah, journaling and doing those types of things. I will say also, one thing I used to find so helpful was using a habit tracker, which is literally, you can find like free ones online or you can make one on Canva. It's literally just like a bunch of squares on a piece of paper, and you write in the, different rows or columns like, okay, this is the habit that I want to track. And then on that day when you do that habit, you just color in the box. And I'm a very visual person, and so like I said, I used to have that sticky note on my desk of what would the best version of you do. I need things to be physically in front of me or I'm going to forget that they exist. So I would print out my habit tracker and stick it on my desk where I would go every single day to sit down and do my skincare routine, and I would fill out what habits I did every day. And I would do that over and over and over again for 90 days until it became habitual and I didn't need the tracker anymore. And it's the best thing ever. And I will probably use it again in 2024 to kind of like keep tracking some of the habits like journaling and reading and things like that. But it's also really rewarding to look back and be like, all my squares are colored in. Like, it really is. But I actually started like using it as well to track water intake. But
Oh,
I also
yeah.
think I just did a video about this too. When it comes to like following through with your goals, like optimize your space around your goals. So if you want to be like, say you want to like have your apartment organized, this is one thing I see people do that I'm like, guys, come on now. If you're like, I want my apartment to feel clean and organized, but you know realistically that you hate cleaning, why do you have a whole shelf of trinkets that you have to pick every single little
Yes, I
trinket
say
up
this
off
all
the
the time.
shelf to dust? Get rid of the trinkets. You know what I mean? Or like,
Yep.
just like people are making it so much harder to do it. Or for example, having things on your counter or like having books on a shelf. If you know realistically that you need it to be low lift to clean your apartment, put the books in a drawer. Okay, don't put them on a shelf where they're going to get dusty, you know what I mean, or something like that. It's just put a mat outside your apartment door where you brush off your shoes so that you don't have to clean the front area that gets dirty from your muddy shoes every single time you end, you know what I mean, like make it easier for yourself. I know one of my habits I wanted to develop like this year was making my bed, and it was pushed up against my window because I have a small bedroom. And So I was like, okay, I'm gonna slide it a foot away so that I have just enough space to like wiggle in and make my bed. Because my issue before was making your bed when it's up against a wall is a pain in the butt when you have to like lean over and like jump over your bed to try to like get the comforter to fit around the edge. Move the bed, or like just put things in places where it makes sense. I keep my vitamins in our dining room because we don't have enough cabinet space in our kitchen to put it in there. But when I move out, I'm gonna put my vitamins in the kitchen because I take my vitamins. They taste like crap because they're like natural whatnot. So I take them with orange juice because if I take them with water, I gag. So where's my orange juice? In the fridge. So where am I gonna keep my vitamins? In the kitchen. Like put things where it makes sense, like make it easy to follow through with your goals. You know what I mean? If
Yeah.
you're trying to track your spending and right now you're really trying to optimize for credit card points and your spending's on 5 different credit cards, pick one. Get one for now and just stick to one and get in the habit of like make it easy for you to track your spending. And then when it's habitual and you're enjoying the process, okay, then like branch back out and optimize for points. But make it easy to follow through with your habits. Like it's not a cop out. You're not taking the easy route. That's the whole point. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's the whole point of trying
Yes,
to follow through with habits.
I've been trying to habit stack a lot
Yes.
recently as well. Like I said, not an organized person. I totally relate with the whole can't have trinkets everywhere. I actually made a TikTok video
I
about this a couple
hate
months ago. Like
trinkets.
I
Oh,
have such a bare apartment. I don't really decorate. I don't have a lot of things. It is so bare in here. My boyfriend literally makes fun of me because there is nothing in my apartment. It is so empty, but I need it that way because I'm not an organized person. I like cannot have a lot of things or my mental health, my anxiety, it'll just be like a lot in here. So I need it to be bare. But one thing that I've really been working on recently is cleaning up my kitchen. And I think it's because I work in my living room. Like if you're watching the video of this, you can literally see my kitchen in the background. I work in my
mm-hmm.
living space. So cleaning up my kitchen, not keeping dishes in the sink, just making it like a clean and tidy area. And I got a speaker recently and I've been listening to a podcast on my speaker as I'm like cooking and cleaning up and like doing all of the things. And it's so enjoyable now because I'm like listening to a podcast that I love and cleaning, which is something that I hate. So that's the whole idea of habit stacking, which I think can be really beneficial as well. Would you say you are an affirmations girl? Because this is also something that I've been doing a lot recently. I know you said the sticky note with like the what would the best version of myself do? But I've been kind of like really embodying the whole affirmations piece as well recently, which if you aren't familiar with what an affirmation is, because for a while I was really confused about it too, it's essentially just like writing down your goals as if they already happened or as if you're already embodying what the goal is. So for example, my goal is to be happy, healthy, and confident this year. So an affirmation would be, I am the most confident version of myself. Or when I'm speaking about like my content, one of my goals is to come off very confidently in my videos. So I would have an affirmation about that. Or I would write something like, my words are thought provoking. Things like that you're physically writing down on paper to sort of get you into the energy that you've already accomplished your goal and you've already become the person that you're trying to become.
I love affirmations. And I'm going to give a little neuroscience background thing on this. So, like I said, how your subconscious beliefs override your conscious desires. So, like, let's say you're like, I want to appear confident in my videos, but then you have a subconscious belief that no one cares what you say, then it's not gonna translate. And the only way to change your subconscious beliefs is through repetition because but I find this so fascinating. I feel like I nerd out on this, but our subconscious brains don't understand the difference between like positive and negative, and they don't understand the difference between real and imagined. So I think this is really fascinating, right? So they did this study with skiers where they had skiers go down a mountain, normal ski routine, and they measured the signals that their brain fired off. And then they had the skiers do a visualization exercise where they visualized themselves going down the mountain and their brains fired off the exact same signals. So when you're able to visualize like what you want and affirm that, it gives you the same feeling and actions as if you actually had it, right? So then you go into the affirmation situation, you're like, okay, I want this certain thing. So I need to make sure that my subconscious brain is like believes that to be true and can actually imagine those things and visualize those things. and your subconscious brain feeds off of the specifics. So you have to give your subconscious brain details to work with, which is fascinating. And that's how you do it, is through affirmations, through repeating things to yourself about what you want to come true. So I used to think affirmations were so stupid. And it's funny because I had a therapist who was like, you should do some affirmations. And I was like, shut up, that's weird. And then I
That's what
started
I thought
working.
too.
Yeah, I was like, enough. And I started working with my therapist this year, and she was like, have you tried affirmations? And I was like, Jen, I'm going to be so for real with you. I think they're so weird. And her and I end up having this conversation where I realized that the reason that affirmations feel so uncomfortable to do is because you're having to say things that your subconscious brain does not believe to be true. Because I can sit here, right, and I can say, I'm kind. I know I'm kind. I have no issue saying I'm kind. But if I had to say I'm worthy of all the success I desire, I'm like I literally my chest just got tight when I said that, you know?
Yeah.
But it's because you don't believe it to be true. So I started doing affirmations every single night before bed this year. And I was doing it for probably like 3-ish months. And I genuinely started to notice a difference in my energy, the way I approach situations, because I was actively rewiring my subconscious brain to believe the beliefs I need to be true and to believe in order to have what I want consciously, which is just crazy. But you can also do it through like visualization as well. So thinking about like, okay, I want, people like your example, people find what I say like thought provoking. Like if saying the affirmation out loud of like, I bring, good perspectives to the table, or people love what I have to say. If those types of things don't work for you, if you're a more visual person, visualize what that would look like. Visualize the success, visualize having like close your eyes and like do a meditation where you think about a video going viral where you like brought a, perspective to the table that people really loved, or whatever it is that you are trying to like manifest, whatever goal. Visualize yourself doing it, because like I said, your brain fires off the same signals when you visualize versus when you actually have it. So if you don't have it, you can't have it right in this moment, right? Like I can't have a house right now, but if I visualize that, it's going to create the same energy. And I don't know, it's so connected, and I think it's so fascinating. But I think affirmations and visualization are huge and have been huge for me in manifesting my goals.
Yeah, I love that. I will definitely be doing a lot of affirmations in 2024. I've already started. And like you said, like you can feel a difference. I know this,
Mm-hmm.
and I would just like to preface this by saying if this is all sounding a little like woo woo to you, definitely it sounded like that for me as well. I am like the least, like 6 months ago, Erin would not be talking about any of this. So it definitely sounded a little bit woo woo to me at first, but I promise you it all just comes back to your mindset and your perspective on things. Like if you embody all of these different types of things, goal setting is going to be so much more fun for you. You are going to be living in like literally your own little bubble where you truly believe anything that you set your mind to, you can achieve. And that is such a good headspace to be in. But I also really love the whole like visualization exercise and like idea that you were talking about, because vision boards are obviously one thing that
Mm-hmm.
everyone talks about when they're goal setting. It's like, oh, make your 2024 vision board. And I'm a vision board girl. I love
Same.
looking at it. I think they're so cute. But I think that a lot of people do them wrong. I think a lot of people just like go onto Pinterest and search vision board photos, and that's their vision board. And that's like
Mm-hmm.
whatever they find cute. But I think it is really important to start with like the internal visualization of what do I actually want my life to look like this year, and get super specific, and then try to find photos that match that. So let's say your goal is to get into a relationship this year. Okay, try to be more specific than that. Like
Mm-hmm.
define the goal of what do I want to be doing with my partner? Maybe it's I want to be active with my partner. I want us to go to the gym together. I want to pick up a hobby with my partner. What hobby would we be doing? What trip would we take? Try to find photos of that, and that's what you add to your vision board. Don't just like search vision board photos and like pick what's cute on Pinterest.
Yes, there's two thoughts with this I want to say. One is that if you don't know what you want, you do. And I think you're overthinking it. And I say this as a chronic overthinker. My friend has to remind me all the time not to overthink my goals and what I want. But if you were feeling like it is hard to think of like what do I actually want to put on my vision board, do a visualization meditation. Again, like Erin said, I know this sounds like a little woo woo, whatever, but all it is neuroscience. That's all it is. That's what meditation is. It just helps you access different parts of your brain. That's all it is. And I have found it really, really helpful. Or you can do a visualization exercise where you go through your ideal day. So like if it's a year from now, what does your ideal day look like? Where are you waking up? What's around you? What's in your home, your apartment? Where are you living? Who's living with you? Going through that, what are you doing after work? What are you doing for work? Going through that is really helpful. But also, yes, I completely agree with getting specific. And another little like neuroscience thing is that the subconscious brain feeds on specifics. And that's where we can like imagine things. So if I told you, do you want a glass of orange juice? It's like, it's just orange juice. But I'm like, okay, I have like the best glass of orange juice ever. It is the freshest juice I've, ever. I, picked these fresh organic oranges and I hand squeeze them and it's the perfect match of sour and sweet. And like, you immediately are like, oh, wait, that kind of sounds pretty good. You know what I mean? Like the more detail that I'm able to give you when I describe that orange juice, you're like, wait, like, yeah, that sounds really good. Now I kind of want some orange juice. So when you are able to give yourself details, and it doesn't have to be details of like numerics, like I have a boyfriend who's 6'4", and like
Yeah.
no, it's not that. It's focus on like how you are feeling. So I, maybe if you are manifesting a relationship or an apartment, you're like, my apartment feels spacious and welcoming and homey, and my relationship feels exciting, and I feel at peace in my relationship, and we go and we do these things together and stuff like that. It all comes back to how you want to feel. But when you can give yourself those details, it helps, because then, yeah, when you try to put it on your vision board, if those images have they don't spark any emotion in you, they don't give you any feeling, it's like, what the heck? And it's funny because when I made my vision board, I think it was 2 years ago, I had this image of this man on my vision board, which everyone used to think was so funny. It was a man who was like, he had been like running down the street in a city and it was raining and he had an umbrella. And the picture of him was, he was like up in midair and he was doing a heel kick with his little umbrella, just like smiling ear to ear. And it was the randomest picture and everyone would be like, what the heck is that? And I was like, he is embracing what was thrown at him. It's pouring rain. You can see puddles in the city all around him. And he's running down the street doing a little heel kick. And he looked so happy and free. And that was like the energy I wanted to embody that year. I wanted to just like whatever life threw at me, I wanted to just approach it with a smile and, heel kick in the rain as this man was. And I have no idea who this man was. I found it on Pinterest. But the energy that that picture gave me and the feeling it gave me, that that went on my vision board, rather than like I see people with like aesthetic photos of like coffee and I'm like, okay, if you want to be a barista and like that's, what I mean?
Yeah.
But like think through what's the feeling behind it. So if you want to manifest money or if you want to manifest being debt free, you don't need an image that says debt free, right?
Yeah.
Unless that image is sparking the feeling. Maybe you put, an image of a budget that has $0 of a mortgage payment because you want to pay off your mortgage this year, or a picture of people on vacation because you know that once your mortgage is paid off, you feel like you can go on more family vacations or whatever. Think about like the feeling and try to get really specific around that, because it does impact the way that your brain's going to view your goals and keep moving towards them.
Yeah, a few thoughts on here as well. I was doing my vision board last week, and one photo that, like, one of the first photos that I pulled was a girl and a golden retriever dog, and they were like frolicking along the beach, like at sunset. And I
Yes.
put that on my vision board, and what that stands for, and this is just an example, obviously, and what that stands for me is I want to not spend more time with my dog. Like, that's not like the overarching goal. The overarching goal is to spend more time doing things without feeling the need to constantly be productive. So the affirmation that I've been like writing down and telling myself is just along the lines of like, there is enough time in the day to do the things that I need to do and to do the things that I know that I want to achieve. There is enough time in the
Mm-hmm.
day. So what I'm putting onto my vision board is the picture of my dog and I like frolicking along the beach, because I'm spending more time with my dog and spending more time not feeling like I need to be productive every single second, because I believe that there's enough time in the day to accomplish everything that I want to achieve. So I really love that idea as well. Also, the, ideal day, I did that as well. I put that onto my, little, like, goals Notion page
Mhm.
because that's something that I really wanna think through too, just kind of, like, thinking through, what does my ideal day look like? And one thing that was super eye-opening when I did this exercise was I realized that I started writing about a weekday, like a work day, and that was super eye-opening for me
Yeah.
because I was like, I am living my dream life in my dream career. If you would have asked
Mhm.
me a year ago to rate my ideal day, I probably would have said like a Saturday morning where I was
Yeah.
like chilling out after my corporate job throughout the week. But now I'm genuinely so happy in what I do. And my ideal day is reflecting a day where I get to do these types of things. I get to work.
Mhm.
I get to. So it's just kind of like a good reminder of, are you living in alignment with what you value and what you want your life to look like? What does your ideal day look like? I like that exercise too.
Yeah, I did it last night actually, and I also wrote about a work day and focused on the way that I feel about work. And then I also, in my little ideal day, I took my dog, my, imaginative dog that I don't have currently, but that I want to manifest. I also took my dog to the beach and we were running around in the sunset because every visualization exercise I've done in the past few days, the visualization I get is of me running on the beach at sunset with a dog. Because when I went to LA earlier this year, I lived in LA for a month earlier this year, and it was so much fun. But I loved going to the beach at sunset and seeing everyone out with their dogs. It brought me so much joy, and it was like the most healing thing. I used to like play with people's dogs. Every dog that came by, I was like, "Can I pet it?" I love petting strangers' dogs, but that was the visualization that came back to me. So I'm also like in that, but for that reason, I want to do more things after work rather than just like finding more work to do after work, because that's what I do currently.
Yeah. You said this a couple minutes ago, but you talked about how you already know what the goal is. And I find this really interesting. I totally agree. I find this really interesting because I put something onto my Instagram story yesterday just saying that we're filming this podcast episode, gave the title, and what do you want to know about 2024 goal setting? And so many of the responses were saying like how to pick what your goals are. You know what your goals are. You know what you want your life to look like. Yeah, maybe you need to spend a little bit more dedicated time really thinking through that and really thinking through, how do I want to feel next year? What would make me a happy person? What would make me like all the things? But you know what the goal is. You just need to like we've been talking about in this episode, position it, frame it, make it so that you truly embody that you can achieve that goal and you like understand that you are worthy of that goal, but you know what the goal is. Like, let's say your goal is to make whatever, like, let's say it's to replace your corporate salary with your business. You know that that's your goal because you want to quit your corporate job or whatever. But just taking some time to think through, why is that the goal? How is that goal going to make me feel? All of those things will be what's really motivating you to stick to that goal in 2024.
I also think a lot of people feel pressure when they are setting their goals because they feel like they need to play small. And there's a couple things to think about with this. Our brain, like the purpose of our brain is to keep us safe. It is wired to keep us safe. So when you're setting goals that feel like you're like, okay, I know if I set this goal, it's going to be so hard to get there. That's just your brain trying to tell you, like, that it's going to be challenging and that you shouldn't set that goal, but that does not mean that you shouldn't set it. One thing I learned in this goal setting course that I'm taking right now is that we are the only life form concerned about whether or not we're worthy of something before we go after it. Like animals in nature are just like, okay, I want it. Do I have access to it? I'm going to go for it. Like think about a squirrel. They're like, I'm hungry. There's a nut. I'm going to go get the nut. Like they're not like, am I worthy of that nut? Like, no, they just go for it. You know what I mean? And like, they have no shame. People joke about this with their dogs too, or their cats, where they're just like, yeah, my cat is like, I want attention, and she just goes for it, and she comes and like sits on me, and she doesn't care. You know what I mean? Like, we are the only people who really think about if we're worthy of it before we go after it. So if you're thinking of your goals and you're like, I want to make six figures, but you're like, I'm not worthy of it, and that's what's deterring you from doing it, or if you feel like, gosh, like I'm gonna have to hustle to like an extreme length to be able to hit that goal, write it down, set it as a goal, because you don't necessarily have to hustle to get to what you want. Like, is there discipline that comes into play? Yeah, for sure. But don't assume that the path from where you are to where you want to be is going to be immensely challenging, because you have no idea what could come your way. Like, no idea. And you'll be surprised what comes your way. So don't take it off the list. But also, if you don't know what you want, like if you're feeling like, oh gosh, I just don't know like what I really want, just focus on the feelings. Do a visualization meditation, or do that, ideal day kind of exercise. And you don't have to share it with anyone if you feel uncomfortable with that. But think about the feelings. Like, when you wake up, how do you want to feel? Okay, you want to feel really well rested. And right now, you don't feel well rested when you wake up. Okay, so what do we need to think about? Like, what are the goals in that? Maybe you save up to buy an Aura ring so you can track your sleep and, see if you're getting optimal sleep. Or maybe you save up for a new mattress, and your goal is to, but your overarching goal here is to improve your sleep, and you're thinking of things you can do. So you don't even go through that day and see, what does my ideal day look like, and what's the difference between that and where I am right now. And some of your goals will come through in doing that exercise.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely in the dream big category. I'm in the category of like dream so big that you are not afraid to tell people what your goals are, but you know that other people are not setting goals as big, so you don't want to talk about them. Like, you know what I mean? Like my
Mhm.
goals, and I'm not saying these are like my this year goals or whatever, but like my actual goals in life, I don't want to talk to like my personal life friends or my boyfriend or my family members about those goals. That's how you should be setting goals, because those are the goals that are going to push you past like what's comfortable and what you actually think that right now you can feasibly achieve, and will force you to kind of like think outside the box and all of that, in order to achieve something greater. And worst case scenario is you reach something that's a few steps back from that goal. You know what I mean? But at least you're dreaming
Yeah.
big and you're thinking through what you actually want out of life. Like, for example, one goal that I have at some point in my life is to make $1 million in a year, and thinking through kind of like why I want to achieve that, what I want to do. It's all about like the opportunities that open up when you reach that kind of success, the people that you'll meet, the opportunities that you'll have in terms of your career, all of those different things. That's what's sort of like behind that goal. So, really thinking through all of those things and not being afraid to dream big and set big goals.
Yes, that's one of my goals as well in life, is to have $1 million year, $1 million in a year cash. And I also like, that's at the top of my ladder, right? And I'm working between, some of the bottom rungs right now and moving my way up. But yeah, set goals that feel big, and it's going to feel uncomfortable, like, especially if you don't have the subconscious belief that that's possible for you. But you can work towards affirming it by doing those affirmations and journaling, going to therapy and things like that. Like, do I think I'm capable of having $1 million year? Yes, for sure, 100%. But if you asked me a year ago, I would be like, no. Because, a year ago I had a $2,000 month, and this year I had a $20,000 month. So, like, we're in very different spots, you know what I mean? But a lot of that has come from like working on that and doing the affirmations to affirm to myself that that is possible. So don't think that just because you're not where you want to be right now, that you can't have that big goal. Like, still set that really big goal and continue working toward it, and take the small steps to it. Cuz like, if you don't set that big goal, you're taking yourself out of the running for it before you're even in the race. You know what I mean? Like, if you're like, I want to have a 5-bedroom house, but you're like, that's not possible. So I'm just going to focus on just getting a 2-bedroom, and everyone's going to have to share bedrooms and whatever. Like, what? Like, no, don't take yourself out of the running. Like, don't just settle for that house. Maybe that 2-bedroom house is a stepping stone in getting to the 5-bedroom house that you want, but it don't take yourself out of the running. Like,
Yeah,
you're
don't
like,
take
but
it
you're
off
not
the
even in the
ladder.
race yet. You
It's
know what I mean? Like,
yes, yes. Don't shorten your ladder. I guess that's a good way
yes.
to
Yeah.
describe it. Still keep it on the
Yeah.
ladder. There just might be some more rungs in between you and that
Yes.
goal. I love that. I think we are totally over time once again. I've been loving these longer episodes. The past couple of episodes we filmed have all been between an hour and an hour and a half, and I hope you guys love them just as much as we do. We have some really exciting episodes coming up in 2024. We're bringing some guests onto the podcast in 2024 every couple of episodes. We are so excited about that. So we're just feeling really bullish. We think the podcast is going to be something really fun and exciting to work on through the rest of 2024. So we're really excited to bring you guys along that journey with us. Like we said, our financial foundations guide is available starting today. We will link that in the show notes, or you can find it in the links on all of our social media profiles as well. Definitely follow us over on Instagram and TikTok at Girls Talk Money Pod, and be sure to leave some listener questions in Spotify if you're listening on Spotify as well. We didn't do any listener questions at the end of this episode because we are well over time, but we do want to bring that segment back in 2024. So leave us some listener questions. And yeah, I hope everyone has an amazing new year, and let's get ready to crush our goals in 2024.
Yes, for sure. We'll see you in the next episode.